So we should be able to sell Andre Onana to Saudi Arabia this summer for around £30 million. We only need £28 million to not make a loss on the books, and to be honest, I think a move to Saudi is probably perfect for everyone in this situation. Because if you are signing Onana, you need to use him as an adventurous ball-playing keeper, essentially as an outfield player in possession, and we haven't done that under either Ten Hag or Ruben Amorim. But in the Saudi League, I think Onana would be incredibly entertaining to watch, and he would get a massive payday, so it would work out for everyone. But the question is, who would Manchester United replace Onana with? Well, in this video I'm going to analyse some options, whilst also showing you two key metrics that United should be using in order to assess how good these keeper options are. But let's get right into it. So I'll start off with the two keepers I talked about in my Who Manchester United Should Sign video, the first one of this year. I'll leave a link in the eye above for you to check out afterwards. And they are Angers' 24-year-old Ivorian keeper Yahia Fofana and Reims' 25-year-old Senegalese keeper Yehvan Diouf, who I think are two of the most underrated keepers in world football right now and would be available for minimal fees. But why exactly do I rate these two so highly? Well, before I break down exactly why, showing you the two key metrics that I use when I'm judging keepers, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different retro and current season jerseys, including this Real Madrid 2016-2017 away purple shirt with Ronaldo number 7 on the back from when they beat Juventus in the final in 2016, with Ronaldo scoring a goal in that game. Or you could pick up this AC Milan away white shirt with Kaká 22 on the back from the 06-07 season where AC Milan won the Champions League, with Kaká securing the Ballon d'Or that year. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you will get a 10% discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. So why Diouf and Fofana? Well, it's because of these two metrics: post-shot XG minus goals allowed and percentage of crosses stopped. See, post-shot XG minus goals allowed I think is the main metric you want to use in order to judge keepers' shot-stopping ability. Post-shot XG is essentially the goalkeeper version of XG, analysing the likelihood of a goalkeeper saving a shot according to the XG model. It's an XG model that takes into account the shot position, the angle of the shot in reference to the goal, whether the effort was a header or a shot, with headers notoriously being scored less, and whether there are defenders between the player and the goal. These models are based upon tens of thousands of shots gathered over an extensive period of time. So the issue with judging goalkeepers purely based off the eye test is that unless that keeper plays for your side that you support, you aren't likely to be watching them week in, week out. And if they aren't in the Premier League or are just playing for a smaller club, how many games are you actually watching of them? Also, with goalkeepers, cognitive bias is massive. If you watch one game where a keeper makes a worldie of a save, you're going to overinflate their ability in the future, because that one singular save stands out in your mind. Whereas if you watch a game where a keeper makes a mistake, now the opposite happens. You can of course watch highlights compilations, which are still hugely valuable, but these videos really only show you a keeper's best parts and usually focus on shot stopping, neglecting other attributes like cross-claiming, sweeping and ball playing ability. And so this is why I use post-shot XG minus goals allowed, as with one single metric you can gauge statistically and objectively how good a goalkeeper is at shot stopping. Over shorter periods, yes, this metric can be skewed and misleading, but over a longer period, over the course of a year or just a full season, a keeper who ranks highly for this metric is clearly a very good shot stopper. And from both the eye test and statistically, I think that's the case with both Fofana and Diouf, with both keepers ranking joint top for their total post-shot XG minus goals allowed when compared against every other goalkeeper in Europe's top 5 leagues for both their total and their per 90 stats. 11.1 for their total and 0.4 for the per 90 version of that stat. And so this means that both Diouf and Fofana have kept out just over 11 goals more than expected this season, according to the XG model. Now in terms of the eye test, Fofana definitely looks more physical and aerially dominant, which is also backed up by the stats by the fact that he ranks in the 91st percentile for the percentage of crosses he has stopped over the past 365 days, with 9.6%, whilst Diouf is lower down in the 57th percentile with 6.5%. And so out of the two, Fofana is a lot better with dealing with balls coming into the box, which I think people massively underrate the importance of, as if you have a goalkeeper who can come out and catch or punch crosses, this allows you to be a bit more comfortable when sitting deeper in your defensive third, knowing that your midfield can sit a lot narrower, congesting the space centrally and forcing the opponent out wide, because even if they do resort to a cross, your keeper has the ability to come and claim it. Now whilst both keepers are exceptional shot stoppers, I do think Diouf is a bit more agile when it comes to racing out and looking to narrow down the angle for an opposition attacker in a 1v1. being a bit quicker across the ground when having to shift over and close off any shooting opportunity. Now in terms of ball playing ability, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure that either keeper is good enough long term to be an elite level ball playing keeper. However, at this point I would question how important that actually is, because even under Ruben Amorim, we haven't been using Andre Onana anywhere near to the level that he was used under Inzaghi at Inter Milan, where Inzaghi would encourage Onana to essentially become the 11th man in possession, and not just inside his own box in the defensive third, but also in the middle third as well, with his display against Manchester City in the 2023 Champions League final showcasing how having an elite level ball playing keeper can nullify the opposition's press, with Onana's ability to thread midfield splitting passes and find longer passes out to the fullbacks and into the forward line, working to allow Inter to play out of pressure and into the City half. However, Amorim doesn't seem to want to use his keeper like this, and so in this case I don't see Fofana or Juve's ball playing ability being an issue. In terms of ball playing ability, neither are as good as Onana, but both have the ability to clip passes over the opposition's front line, into the fullbacks in space on the flanks, and whilst from what I've seen of them their longer and incisive passing is nothing special, I think their more traditional goalkeeping attributes more than make up for this. Now, Angers are reportedly demanding £15 million for Fofana this summer, with clubs like Wolves and Newcastle reportedly interested, but he only has 1 year left on his contract, and so initially I thought United would be able to get him for around £5 to £7 million, which is probably what we could sell Bayindir for, but it may now likely be a bit higher than that. Now, their record transfer fee received is around £21 million, and that was back in 2019. But given that Fofana has 1 year left on his contract and is also a goalkeeper, I think United should probably be able to get him for around £10 to £12 million, depending on the interest from other clubs. Yet and Juve, I haven't seen any concrete numbers being thrown around. He has a contract until 2027, and Rem did sell Emmanuel Agbagdu to Wolves this January for around £16 million, so I think it's fair to assume that, like Fofana, United could probably get Juve for around £12 million. But out of the two, who would I prefer? Well, before I tell you that, let's look at two other Onana replacement options. So the first is Lille's Lucas Chevalier, and the second is Torino's Vanja Milinkovic-Savic. Now, I'll be honest here, most of my analysis on goalkeepers does come through the post-shot XG minus goals allowed and crosses stopped percentage metrics. I think people who are telling you that they've watched enough full games of any goalkeepers that I've mentioned, unless they are fans of that club, are just flat out lying, let's be real. But like Fofana and Juve, both Chevalier and Milinkovic-Savic do look impressive statistically, with Chevalier ranking in the 89th percentile for his post-shot XG minus goals allowed, with plus 0.22 per 90, and sitting in the 52nd percentile for his crosses stopped percentage with 6.3%. Whilst Milinkovic-Savic ranks in the 94th percentile for his post-shot XG minus goals allowed, with plus 0.27 per 90, and the 63rd for the percentage of crosses he stopped with 6.8%. But despite ranking lower for both metrics, I do prefer Chevalier, and that may be because I've just watched more of Lille than I have of Torino. I'm willing to accept that, but regardless, both keepers are very good shot stoppers. Positionally, they are very good when covering their near post, very good when it comes to their reflexes from short range, but the reason I would prefer Chevalier is because I think he's a better sweeper, racing out either when making a clearance, closing down the angle for an opposition attacker, or when making himself big in 1v1 situations, as well as probably being the best ball playing keeper out of the four I've mentioned, especially when it comes to playing around pressure and splitting the frontline press with short incisive passes. Chevalier is the youngest of the four at 23, Milinkovic-Savic is the oldest at 28, but given they are keepers, this doesn't really make much of a difference in my opinion. Now, Milinkovic-Savic does have a €20 million, £17.5 million release clause, having 1 year left on his contract with the option of a further year, but he would have to agree to this extension, whereas Chevalier, given his age, the club he's at, and the hype around him, he's likely to cost in excess of £30 million. And so given the price, for me, the best option is to use the Onana money to sign both Fofana and Juve, also selling Bayindir in the process. And the reason I would sign both is because firstly, both are far better than Bayindir and probably better than Onana given his form at United, but also because I'm unsure as to whether who is the better of the two. Fofana is certainly more aerially dominant, whilst Juve is a better sweeper keeper, having a bit more agility when it comes to scampering across and covering shorter distances. And so if it was up to me, I would look to sign both Fofana and Juve for a combined around £25 million and allow Amorim to see which one he prefers, using one in cup matches and one in the league, just as Arteta did with Ramsdale and Raya, before then deciding who is the best option as the number one, either midway through the season or just next summer. I do like Chevalier, but I just think because of the price tag it's too much of a risk, and considering we could probably get both Fofana and Juve for less than what he would cost, I think that is a better option. So let me know what goalkeeper you would pick to replace Onana in the comment section, and if you do want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. I'll leave it linked in the description and comment section below, and if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to get access to the in-game Instagram group chat, or just read some of my articles, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.